On a cold June morning in Normandy, a scene unfolded that should have ended in disaster. 35 worn-out American paratroopers, hungry, thirsty, and cut off from their own lines, found themselves surrounded by an entire German force. 700 enemy soldiers. No supplies. No backup. No way out. At least, that's how it looked on paper. Then their sergeant stepped forward. Jake McNeice wasn't the kind of soldier that fit neatly into an army rulebook. He'd been written up so many times the paperwork probably filled a filing cabinet. Fights, insubordination, refusing orders. He was the kind of guy the army kept trying to boot out, and somehow the kind they needed most when everything fell apart. He stood there that day with a mohawk carved into his skull and his face striped with war paint, half warrior, half warning sign. The Germans figured these Americans were finished. Their officer walked out with surrender terms, certain this was going to be quick and tidy. McNeice had other plans. Instead of giving up, he stared the German commander down and offered him 3 choices. Pull back, sit down and deal on our terms, or come forward and die for a patch of dirt that isn't worth it. No hesitation. No nervous glance. Just calm, cold confidence. The German officer tried to read him, tried to decide whether this was madness or strategy. And the longer he looked, the less he liked what he saw. Because McNeice wasn't bluffing. He'd already placed his tiny group in positions that turned the terrain into a trap. If the Germans pushed, a lot of them were going to bleed for it. And for what? A handful of Americans who refused to act defeated? In the end, the enemy commander made the most logical decision he could. He ordered his 700 men to pull back. 35 paratroopers held their ground without firing a shot. That moment became part of D-Day legend. Photos of the Filthy 13, with their wild haircuts and streaks of paint, later appeared in documentaries and magazines, but the real story wasn't the look. It was the mindset. Jake McNeice understood something simple and brutal. When you convince the enemy you're too stubborn, or too dangerous, to break, they start wondering what you know that they don't. The army tried to push him out 8 different times. Yet on the day it mattered most, that same stubborn streak saved his men's lives. Sometimes, refusing to surrender isn't bravery. Sometimes, it's the only way anyone walks away.